Hey there! I'm glad you're interested in learning how to achieve higher levels of damage. Division 2 can be very challenging, especially when taking on raids, incursions, and legendaries. It becomes critical to incur higher levels of damage. My point is this: it's not enough to survive the enemy, you have to kill the enemy. High damage output is required to do that in high difficulty missions. You have to kill the enemy as quickly as possible. The longer it takes to kill an enemy, the longer you and your teammates are exposed to the risk of enemy fire. So, it's important to reduce TTK, or time to kill. With this concept in mind, you may have great stats, but it might be worth adjusting your build if it takes a long time to kill an enemy. That brings us to critical hit chance and critical hit damage. Players frequently misunderstand this, and it's more challenging to understand what it's about when well-intentioned but incorrect advice from years ago still gets passed on. Let's start with weapon damage. Bring up your inventory view. Then choose stats at the top. Let's take a look at these numbers. Here is the base weapon damage for the weapon we're currently viewing. How much you can improve your damage output depends a lot on how many weapon damage cores you have on your gear. The skill build on the left has 1 weapon core in its backpack. The DPS build on the right has 6 cores. Guess which one delivers higher weapon damage? In other words, the more red core attributes you have on your build, the higher your overall weapon damage. Now, let's shift the topic to critical hit chance and critical hit damage. Here's something to keep in mind, and it's a mistake I often see many players make. It's not about big numbers. High numbers are important, but not at the expense of your overall build strategy. In fact, not only do numbers not tell the full story, they sometimes give you a false sense of confidence. If your build has the right talents and synergies, your damage output can be incredibly high, even if your stats may look modest. I'll use this example as what not to do. Here, the critical hit damage is 170%. That looks like an impressive number. 170% is nothing to laugh at. However, this build misses a fundamental law, and it's that crit damage does not happen with every bullet. It only happens by chance. So, what are the chances that I'll incur 170% more damage with my weapon hits? The answer is right here, just 10%. 10% is not a lot, that's low. That's a 10% chance per bullet. On average, the probability of a bullet hit causing an enemy critical hit damage is 1 in 10. As you engage more difficult enemies, you'll need to crit more frequently. So when thinking of your critical hit damage, don't miss the big picture. It's not enough to have a high critical hit damage value if it doesn't occur frequently enough to kill enemies quickly and efficiently. So, what is the solution? The answer is to prioritize your critical hit chance numbers first. Ideally, you will have this around 50%. By doing so, you will raise the probability of each bullet critting to a 1 in 2 chance. This means a higher chance of damage as you send bullets downrange. If your critical hit chance is significantly lower than 50%, you will have to audit and modify your build. Some simple quick fixes are to change mods on your weapons and to check your crit chance numbers with each change. So check your scopes, muzzle, and underbarrel attachment as the weapon will allow, and see which mods you can swap out with crit chance mods. Another area to check is the gear slots of your gear pieces. Generally, and with standard gear, these are your backpack, mask, and chest armor. If you've overspec'd into crit damage, then these are opportunities to increase your crit chance. Last but not least, check your gear items. There may be attribute slots that you can recalibrate or swap out with crit chance. You can only recalibrate 1 slot, so choose wisely. Hopefully, you'll have maxed crit chance for all your gear items in your library. It's super important to have a robust library. I'll cover the library in a separate video. If you're still trying to reach level 1000, your Shade Watch gives you room to grow. The offensive square or quadrant here on the upper left provides the means to elevate your weapon damage, critical hit chance, and critical hit damage numbers. As you earn shade points, spend them in that order, starting with weapon damage first. Veterans of the game might say focus on critical hit chance, but for beginners, keep boosting your base weapon damage first. Without a strong foundation, critical hit damage won't hit hard. It's chance-based, while weapon damage is always consistent. Now, you may be asking, can I get critical hit chance to 100%? Couldn't all my bullets have a 100% chance of hitting with critical hit damage? Well, that would certainly make the game more interesting. However, the devs have limited critical hit chance to 60%. So even if you spec 70%, or even 80%, you won't exceed the cap. And this is where I've seen players make the mistake of over-speccing on critical hit chance. It means, and get this, it means they could have applied all that overage to critical hit damage. That means their builds are missing out on potentially significant levels of damage. So take your time to audit your build. Here's a pro tip. Anytime you see your crit chance levels at 60%, do a sanity check to ensure you have used every opportunity to spec into crit damage. You'll generally be fine if you keep critical hit chance between 50 and 55%. Now, there are 2 points I'd like to make. The first point is this. Check to see if anyone on your team is wearing a coyote mask. Its Pack Instinct's talent will give team members more crit chance, crit damage, or a combination of the two, depending on the distance of the last enemy they hit. And if 2 people wear the same mask, they're likely to shoot at enemies at different distances, so that can cover your bases pretty well. In this case, some opt to lower their crit chance to around 45% and have the coyote's masks compensate for the remainder. The second point is that certain weapons will have higher crit chance attributes. Generally, weapons such as SMGs will have crit chance as a core attribute, but each weapon type has its advantages and disadvantages in close quarters combat versus enemies at long distances. To wrap up, remember, the higher your crit chance, the more likely you'll incur critical hit damage. But there is a limit. So don't overspec on chance, as that can mean you're not making use of all opportunities to increase crit damage and kill tougher enemies faster. And that's it. As you gain in watch levels and fill in the offensive quadrant of your watch, you can revisit and rebalance your build and become even more powerful. If you're still working to reach level 1000, then I want to encourage you that great days are ahead. I look forward to seeing you in other videos in this series. In the meantime, peace out and stay strong.